Think about this for a second. How many nights have passed in your life that seemed ordinary, yet could have been the turning point of your entire destiny? Imagine that tonight, yes, tonight, could be the night that rewrites your story, the moment where the person you are finally meets the person you're meant to become. We often wait for the perfect timing, the perfect plan, or the perfect sign to take action. But what if all it takes is one night, one decision, one spark of courage, one act of faith in yourself? In this video, we're going to dive deep into a powerful truth that Quentin Tarantino's own life embodies. The idea that transformation doesn't require years. It requires intensity, clarity, and a moment of absolute decision. Stay with me until the end, because the last lesson is the most powerful of all, the one that can truly change the way you see your life, your purpose, and your own creative potential forever. Before we begin, if you love exploring the hidden psychology behind success, creativity, and the human mind, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that their breakthrough might be just one night away. Trust me, what we're about to uncover might completely change the way you think about destiny and choice. Now, let's go back to the beginning of Quentin Tarantino's journey, a story not just of filmmaking, but of self-belief at its purest form. Tarantino was not born into Hollywood. He didn't attend prestigious film schools. He worked at a video rental store, earning just enough to survive. Yet every single day, he was doing something that would later define his genius. He was watching, studying, and absorbing the art of storytelling. To the world, it looked like nothing was happening. But within him, something was brewing, a volcano of passion, vision, and boldness waiting to erupt. And then, one night, it happened. He decided that he was done waiting. He picked up his script, Reservoir Dogs, and said to himself that this would be the movie that changed everything. That night, he crossed the invisible line that separates dreamers from doers, the line most people never cross. Psychologist William James once said, "The greatest discovery of any generation is that a human can alter his life by altering his attitude." Tarantino's story is a perfect reflection of that. His entire future didn't change because he suddenly gained new resources, fame, or luck. It changed because he made a single decision to take himself seriously, even when no one else did. Think about that. How many ideas have you buried because you thought they weren't ready? How many times have you silenced your inner voice out of fear that others would laugh? Every great life begins with one act of rebellion against self-doubt. Tarantino's rebellion began that night, when he dared to believe that his obsession with cinema wasn't a waste of time, but the seed of something divine. And here's the fascinating part. Neuroscience now supports what Tarantino's story represents. Research from Stanford and Harvard shows that the brain rewires itself dramatically after emotionally intense decisions, moments when you feel deeply committed to a new direction. These emotional spikes trigger neuroplasticity, allowing your brain to reorganize itself around a new identity. In other words, when you decide with passion, your brain becomes someone new. That's why one night can truly change your life. But most people never reach that night. Why? Because they underestimate the power of the present moment. They live waiting for someday. Someday I'll write that book. Someday I'll start that business. Someday I'll change. But someday is a lie the mind tells to protect you from discomfort. Tarantino didn't wait for someday. He created his night. He turned a script written on scraps of paper into one of the most talked about independent films of all time. He turned rejection into momentum, failure into dialogue, and doubt into direction. Ask yourself, what is the Reservoir Dogs of your life? What is that one dream that has been sitting in the dark, waiting for you to take it seriously? Maybe it's not a film. Maybe it's a project, a move, a confession, or a beginning that scares you. Whatever it is, it's waiting for its night, for the moment when you stop asking for permission and simply start. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "The secret of realizing the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment of existence is to live dangerously." Tarantino lived dangerously by betting on himself, by breaking the rules, by refusing to fit in. He was not just a filmmaker. He was a declaration that passion, when combined with courage, becomes unstoppable. And here's the truth. Your night may not look glamorous. It might happen alone in your room, staring at a blank page, or in the silence after a failure. But in that silence, when you decide that you're done living below your potential, That's the moment your real story begins. One night. That's all it takes to ignite the chain reaction that transforms an ordinary life into a masterpiece. Now, as we continue, we'll explore how Tarantino's relentless belief in himself turned rejection into fuel, and how you can do the same to rewrite your own destiny from this very moment. Every story of greatness passes through rejection. For Quentin Tarantino, rejection wasn't a wall. It was a mirror. It showed him who he was not yet, but who he was meant to become. Imagine this. You've written a screenplay that you believe could change everything. You pour your soul into it, only to have doors slammed in your face. Agents ignore you. Producers laugh. People tell you to be realistic. That's what Tarantino faced, over and over. But instead of quitting, he chose to see rejection as proof that he was playing the right game. He once said, "If you're not rejected, you're not trying hard enough." That mindset alone separates creators from spectators. Most people mistake rejection for a signal to stop, but in truth, it's the universe's way of testing the strength of your vision. Can you hold your dream when it seems nobody else can see it? That's the real question. When Tarantino couldn't find support for Reservoir Dogs, he didn't wait for validation. He found one believer, a friend who helped him raise a small budget. With almost no resources, he built a film that felt like an explosion. It was raw, unpolished, but alive. That's the power of conviction. It breathes life into what logic says is impossible. Psychologist Carol Dweck, known for her research on the growth mindset, teaches that people who view challenges as opportunities to grow rather than threats to avoid achieve far more in life. Tarantino was the embodiment of that principle. He didn't see failure as proof of inadequacy. He saw it as feedback, a creative spark that demanded he refine his craft. Every no sharpened his yes. Now think about your own life. Where have you mistaken rejection for defeat? Maybe you've been told you're not talented enough, smart enough, or young enough. Maybe you've heard, "It's too late," so many times that you began to believe it. But the truth is, it's never too late to rewrite your narrative. The only thing that ages dreams is your decision to stop nurturing them. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." Looking back, Tarantino could see how every rejection shaped him, how every closed door redirected him toward mastery. But in the moment, he just kept moving forward, believing that one night, one opportunity, would finally connect all the dots. That night came with Reservoir Dogs' first screening. The audience's reaction was electric. Critics called it violent genius. Tarantino didn't just make a film, he made a statement. You don't need permission to express your truth. That night transformed him from a video store clerk into one of the most original voices in cinema. But make no mistake, it wasn't luck. It was the culmination of years of invisible preparation meeting one explosive moment of courage. It's easy to look at someone like Tarantino and think he was destined for greatness. But destiny isn't a gift. It's a discipline. It's built moment by moment, night by night, through decisions that few people are willing to make. He studied hundreds of films, not because he was forced to, but because he loved them with obsession. That's the kind of devotion that transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary artistry. If you want your own night, start by falling in love with the process, not just the result. Tarantino didn't chase fame, he chased the craft. He once said, "I didn't go to film school, I went to films." That statement captures his entire philosophy. Mastery is self-taught through passion and persistence. You don't need a diploma to start. You need obsession. So ask yourself, what are you so obsessed with that you do it even if nobody ever paid you? What could you study, build, or create every night until your skill becomes undeniable? Because the truth is, every hour you spend immersed in what you love builds the foundation for your life-changing night. Modern psychology supports this idea. Studies on deliberate practice by Anders Ericsson show that mastery requires consistent, intentional engagement, not perfection from the start. In other words, greatness is built in private, long before it's celebrated in public. Tarantino's nights spent rewinding VHS tapes, analyzing dialogue, and dissecting scenes were not wasted time. They were sacred preparation. Every artist, every visionary, every person who ever changed their life reached a moment when preparation collided with opportunity. That collision looks like overnight success to outsiders, but insiders know it took thousands of nights to create that one. What if tonight is your night of decision? What if this is the moment you stop consuming inspiration and start creating transformation? You don't have to have it all figured out. Tarantino didn't. He simply started where he was, with what he had, and he made it count. Nietzsche once said that the secret to becoming great is to build your life as a work of art. Tarantino did exactly that. He designed his life as a living script. Every experience, every mistake, every risk added color to his masterpiece. You can do the same. Life is not something that happens to you. It's something you direct, edit, and rewrite. In the next part, we'll explore how Tarantino turned his creativity into a philosophy of life, one that challenges conformity, embraces chaos, and proves that true genius often hides inside the courage to be misunderstood. When Quentin Tarantino burst into Hollywood, he didn't just bring new films, he brought a new philosophy of life. He believed that creativity should not be polite, predictable, or confined. It should explode, challenge, and disturb. His movies, full of violence, humor, and human truth, became metaphors for something deeper, that life itself is a screenplay you write, direct, and sometimes must completely rewrite. Tarantino once said, "I am not a filmmaker, I am a storyteller." That statement hides a profound truth. He didn't see movies as just entertainment. He saw them as mirrors of the human soul. And within that belief lies a lesson that can transform how you see your own story. You are not the actor in your life. You are the writer. Every word, every scene, every choice is yours to create. Think about that for a moment. How many of us live as if we're just playing roles written by someone else? Society hands us a script. Go to school, get a job, follow the rules, stay safe. But Tarantino ripped that script to pieces. He wrote his own line by line, fueled by instinct, curiosity, and defiance. He proved that authenticity is rebellion in its purest form. Psychologist Carl Jung believed that the greatest tragedy of life is not the loss of youth, but the loss of authenticity. He called it the mask, the false self we wear to fit in. Tarantino refused the mask. He embraced his chaos, his contradictions, and his unconventional passions. That's what made him magnetic. That's what made him real. And maybe that's what your life is asking from you. Not perfection, but honesty. Not imitation, but originality. We live in a world obsessed with formulas for success. But the truth is, your life doesn't need a formula. It needs fire. When Tarantino made Pulp Fiction, he didn't just change cinema. He shattered every expectation of what storytelling could be. Non-linear timelines, long conversations about nothing and everything, characters that felt more alive than the world around them. Critics said it broke the rules, but that was exactly the point. In psychology, there's a term called cognitive dissonance. It's the mental tension we feel when reality contradicts our expectations. Tarantino used this tension as his art. He forced audiences to think, to question, to feel something beyond comfort. And that's what every transformative life requires. Discomfort. Because growth never happens in the comfort zone. It happens in the chaos of creation. So here's the question. What rules are you still obeying that no longer serve you? What patterns are you repeating because you're afraid to be misunderstood? Every genius, every innovator, every revolutionary shares one common trait. They were willing to look foolish before they looked brilliant. Albert Einstein once said, "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds." Tarantino lived that truth. He was mocked for his eccentricity, criticized for his boldness, yet he never compromised his vision. And because of that, he created not only films, but a legacy that redefined an entire generation of storytellers. The lesson is clear. The world doesn't reward those who blend in. It rewards those who stand out with purpose. When you dare to be fully yourself, you give permission for others to do the same. Tarantino's confidence was not arrogance. It was self-trust, born from countless nights of believing in his voice when no one else did. And maybe that's where your one night begins. Not with a sudden success, but with a private declaration that you will no longer betray your voice to please others, that you will no longer postpone the life you're meant to live. Existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you." Tarantino took everything, his unconventional upbringing, his rejection, his obsession with cinema, and turned it into art. That's the ultimate act of freedom, transforming your experiences into expression. Your pain, your failures, your obsessions, they are not burdens. They are raw material for your masterpiece. You don't need to erase them. You need to use them. In neuroscience, there's something called emotional encoding. It means that experiences charged with emotion, especially pain, are stored more deeply in the brain. They shape who we are, but they also hold the key to who we can become. When you create from your pain, you turn your scars into symbols of power. That's what Tarantino did. His stories are filled with violence not for the sake of chaos, but as metaphors for the struggle of identity, justice, and transformation. He understood something that few people do, that the human condition is both beautiful and brutal, that light and darkness are not enemies, they are collaborators in the art of becoming whole. And maybe, just maybe, your life's greatest art will come not from avoiding darkness, but from transforming it into meaning. So if you feel lost right now, if you feel that your story is stuck in the middle of a messy scene, remember this. Tarantino wrote his masterpiece by embracing the mess. The confusion, the fear, the uncertainty, all of it became part of the plot. Your breakthrough might not come when things make sense. It might come when you finally stop trying to control the narrative and start living it with raw honesty. In the next part, we'll uncover the final and most powerful lesson of all, the one that defines Tarantino's philosophy and could redefine your life, how to turn one night of decision into a lifetime of purpose and legacy. Every story needs a final act, the moment when the hero faces truth, embraces destiny, and chooses transformation over comfort. For Quentin Tarantino, that moment came not at the peak of success, but in the stillness after it. When the world already knew his name, he began asking himself a question that every soul eventually faces. What am I really here to do? Fame, awards, recognition, none of it satisfied the deeper hunger that drove him. Because for Tarantino, the purpose was never just to make movies. It was to tell stories that matter, to leave behind something timeless, something that makes people feel more alive. And that's the ultimate message of his journey. Your purpose is not found in what you achieve, but in what you give through your art, your presence, your truth. He once said, "If you just love movies enough, you can make a good one." But hidden inside that quote is a universal law of life. If you love anything enough, if you give yourself completely to it, it will transform not only what you do, but who you are. Love, when turned into devotion, becomes the engine of destiny. This is what separates those who drift from those who rise. It's not luck, it's not opportunity. It's love so fierce that it becomes obsession. Tarantino didn't try to be a filmmaker. He was one long before anyone gave him a chance. He lived it, breathed it, dreamed it. And that identity, lived with total conviction, eventually bent the world to his will. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, survivor of the Holocaust and author of Man's Search for Meaning, wrote that those who have a why can bear almost any how. Tarantino's why was crystal clear, to tell the stories he was born to tell, even if nobody understood them. And that's where transformation begins. Not when life becomes easy, but when your why becomes undeniable. So ask yourself, what is your why? What is that thing inside you that refuses to die no matter how much time passes, no matter how many times you've tried to silence it? Because that, right there, is the compass that points toward your night of change. Maybe your one night won't look like a movie premiere or a creative breakthrough. Maybe it's a night when you finally decide to forgive someone or to forgive yourself. Maybe it's the night you stop being who the world expects and start becoming who your soul remembers. One night can shift your entire timeline because it changes the vibration of your choices from that moment forward. Tarantino's genius was not that he made violent films. It was that he made honest ones. He didn't hide from the chaos of the world. He translated it. He turned madness into meaning. And that's something you can do too. Whatever chaos surrounds you, it's raw energy waiting for direction. The moment you decide to give it meaning, it becomes power. There's a Japanese concept called ikigai, the reason for being. It's the intersection between what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can give. Tarantino's ikigai was storytelling. Yours might be something entirely different. But once you discover it, every night, every struggle, every success begins to feel sacred, because it's part of something greater than yourself. And here's the truth most people miss. Your life doesn't change the moment everything around you changes. It changes the moment you decide that it must. That's the real one night. It's an inner awakening, a moment of total clarity when your past stops defining you and your vision starts leading you. From that point forward, every choice becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your future. Tarantino's life teaches us that we all have the power to direct our own masterpiece. You can edit your story. You can rewrite the scenes. You can end the chapter that no longer serves you and begin the one that finally does. Philosopher Alan Watts once said, "You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago." That means transformation is always available. Every night holds the potential for rebirth, if you dare to claim it. So maybe tonight is your night. Not tomorrow, not next year, tonight. The night you decide to start writing again, to take that risk, to trust that small but burning voice inside you. The night you look at the chaos and see possibility instead of fear. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine waking up tomorrow, knowing that you finally chose yourself, that you stepped into your own story with courage and clarity. That's how new lives begin, with one decision that echoes across every future moment. Tarantino's story is not about Hollywood, it's about humanity. It's about the power of obsession, courage, and authenticity to turn ordinary lives into legends. He reminds us that greatness isn't about talent, it's about truth lived fully. And if you take one thing from this story, let it be this. You are one night away from a completely different life. One night away from the decision that turns pain into purpose, confusion into clarity, and fear into freedom. Because your masterpiece is not waiting to be discovered, it's waiting to be written. And the pen has always been in your hands. So tonight, write, choose, begin. Thanks for looking.